Well, they say always start with a joke, but fortunately my bio is a joke, so there you go. So I sat there and stared at Lake Mendota, trying to explain why I wasn't going on a plane to Puerto Rico for my birthday. The ticket was paid for, the weather was going to be beautiful, all I had to do was go. But I had just given up automotive transportation. And so instead, thank you. And so instead, I went on a 3-day camping trip to Milwaukee by bike. It was the first in a series of extraordinary adventures to rediscover places and redirect my lifelong wanderlust to these places that I could get to by foot, by bike, and even sometimes by sailboat. I had just returned from living in Santiago de Chile, where I was pondering the two forces that I saw that had the biggest and quickest impact on society there. The first was easy access to credit. So new chain stores and creditors had moved in and were selling cheap consumer debt to working class poor people in Santiago. And a slew of scandals and problems followed. And as more and more people bought new individual cars, things like drunk driving became serious social problems and concerns that had never been there before. Now, it's not that drinking had gone up or that become more dangerous in the wine-rich Central Valley of Chile. It's that more and more people than ever before had at their command 3,000 pounds of metal. So when I came back to the United States, I tried to figure out what about these forces that completely dominate our society here in the United States, cars and banks, had an impact on my life. So I thought about my great-grandparents who had lived for years without these institutions in their lives and done just fine, but I couldn't picture a January night without hopping in a car or a bus or using my debit card to pay for something. I knew that with every mile that I drove, I was destroying the environment, and that I profited from someone else's crippling debt with every penny that I saved. So, on July 4th, 2014, I ceremoniously declared my independence from cars and banks. I knew I had to do it if I were going to understand how these things actually operated in our lives. I took as my models not Lance Armstrong and the folks of the Tour de France. Instead, I thought about every homeless rider that I passed who had no other means. Every person without the proper papers to get a driver's license. Every person I knew with no paper, who's on paper, whose conditions of parole wouldn't let them drive. These people had no choice, and so I gave myself no choice either. And it was very, very difficult at the beginning. I wanted to quit a lot the first few months. Every time that there was a late night that I was at my office or a rainy day was very hard. It became easier as I learned how to plan for them. Of course, every time I was at a party and I heard someone talk about their 50-mile commute, it seemed to cheapen my effort. But I recentered myself and accepted the fact that every day I got up, I was gonna get up and get on my bike. Everywhere I went, I was gonna go by bike. Every place I would go, I would be there using my bike. And it just became a part of my life. And my life became richer because of it. I learned that I could carry 60 pounds of dog food on a bike. I learned that I could strap my skis on my back and go find the really good snow in Madison. I learned that I could go to that party in Verona 25 miles away from the north side. But the hardest thing was, and still is, the cars. I still get scared when I'm hugging the shoulder and an engine comes up behind me and I know that they want to pass me. The rules are made for them. The roads are made for them. And it was amazing to me how quickly they became a them. I was just driving months before, and I tried to sympathize with the mother who was driving her young kids to daycare before going to work, but they are so powerful. And most of them have no idea how vulnerable the rest of us are in their world. And so, for the first time in my white, male, middle-class, privileged life, I understood, just for a bit, what it was like to be part of a marginalized community. But it's a choice that I get up and make every single day. A choice to not have a choice.